Welcome to Garden Times. It's the middle of August, and it's getting to be the end of our tomato season here. We're in the upper Midwest, northwest Wisconsin here, and it's pretty much inevitable for most gardeners that grow outdoors that your tomato plants are looking a little sad and a little dying off. Most common issues are Septoria leaf spot, and that's what we got going here. There's also early blight and late blight. Hopefully you never have to deal with late blight. It just kills your crop real fast. I'll show you the signs of Septoria leaf spot. There's not much we can do about it up here in our upper Midwest area with our climate. It's perfect conditions for those bacterias to grow. The humidity, temperature wise, and the amount of moisture that we usually get. It's, the morning dew, everything is just perfect for Septoria leaf spot and early blight. I've tried a lot of things in the past and have had no luck. I've just learned to deal with it. I grow a lot more tomatoes and just get what I get. There's some things that I may try in the future. You read about stuff and you think, oh, that might work. I've put down sheeting and used plastic, and I've tried it all. It's inevitable. Best thing you can do is to only water below, don't water from above, and just kind of, once you start seeing the signs, just try to cut off the infected plants and hope for the best. So this plant is infected with Septoria leaf spot. And you can see how those tiny little spots there, they're very small, like the size of a tip of a lead pencil, kind of. You can see the center, it's got a little light tan spot with a darker brown spot, and then it turns to a yellow around it. Early blight will have a larger spot. It looks very similar, but the spot is bigger. Maybe like the size of an eraser on a number 2 pencil. But this is Septoria leaf spot. And eventually it just kills off the foliage like this. And just once the plant's infected, there's nothing you can really do. There's nothing you can really spray on it that's gonna help it. They have chemicals out there and things you can use early on, but I think it's all kind of a waste of money, because it's inevitable. In the end, you're always gonna get it up here in our climate. But as you can see, we still have some very nice sized tomatoes. These are my Romas, and we're going to pick these. Even these lighter colored ones like this, it's good to pick them now, as you can leave this on your counter and it'll ripen. This one's pretty much ripe here. And if you can, leave the tops on. That kind of just helps with the ripening. Something I have noticed though is my San Marzanos, which I've been saving seed from for about 5 years now, is a little less susceptible to the Septoria leaf spot. I think that maybe it gets acclimated to your climate, your specific soils. And maybe I'm wrong, you know, you can see it's still infected, but it's a little bit more resistant. It just seems like over the years, my San Marzano plants have lasted longer each year after harvesting seeds and saving the seeds and replanting them the following year. These here were my Romas, and those were newly bought seeds. And they said that they were resistant to diseases and whatnot, but you know, maybe in some areas, but definitely not around here. As you can see, we got quite a few tomatoes ripening up though. So we're gonna have a really nice batch of sauce this season. When harvesting your tomatoes for seed, you want to pick tomatoes with characteristics of the plant that you like. Maybe you're looking for something that is going to ripen a little earlier, so you pick the earliest ripening fruit. Maybe you're looking for one that produced a lot of fruits, like this one here. This is a heavy producer, real nice. This plant has also been fairly resistant to disease, so it's got some very good characteristics going for it. However, you don't want to pick your tomatoes early and let them ripen on the tomato like you would for eating or canning or anything like that. You want to leave these ones on here and ripen as long as possible to get good seed development. Once you pick that plant, or once you pick that tomato, the seed development stops. So you want to pick something like this one here, nice and red. It's kind of soft, almost overripe maybe even. That way you know that all of the seeds are fully developed to their fullest potential. And then later I will show you how I go about saving seeds. There's a process that we go through. You gotta pull the seeds out, you gotta ferment the seeds, and then clean the seeds, dry the seeds, and then store the seeds. We'll go through that a little later. Alright, now we've harvested some of our tomatoes. I have a few here that are ripe enough to get ready for making sauce. Now I have a different method of making sauce than the traditional way. These are some that are already done, and as you can see, these are frozen. And I started doing this a few years back. I cut the core out, freeze them, and then when I go to make the sauce, I thaw them out. The skin will just peel right off, and the majority of the water will be left behind. And I strain that out and just keep the pulp. And then I just heat it up enough to sterilize it and thicken it up a little bit more, and then can it. It's a great method. It's way faster than sitting there boiling away for hours and hours and hours to make sauce. This way it's a whole lot faster. I'll make a video of that once we've harvested all of our tomatoes. Meanwhile, I want to show you what I do. I just take a fillet knife. Be very careful so you don't cut yourself. And I cut around the stem, just deep enough down in there so you can remove the core. Give it a little twist, pull it out, and there you can see that's your core. Dispose of that. And then what you have left is a good tomato for making our sauce. I removed the stem, just it's easier down the road to get that out of there because we'll mill this to get the seeds out. We'll put this through a hand crank mill. I'll make a video on that later, demonstrate how all that's done. But the first step here is to remove our cores after the tomato has been ripened. Now, for our tomatoes that we want for seed. Now these San Marzanos are ones that I picked today. I really liked the plant that they were on. They were resistant to a lot of the soil-borne diseases that we're susceptible to in the upper Midwest. So yeah, here's what I do. I just take and I slice it down the center, cut it in half. Here's a good example. There's our core. That's what we were removing for our sauce tomatoes. And we can add these in there after we pull them out. There's our seed. There's the cavity. And then there is all the seeds. When we're fermenting this, what we're doing is we're getting this coat of gel that's on all the seeds. We're fermenting them to get that removed. So what we do is put them in a mason jar, a little bit of water. Don't really need that core there. Again, slice that core. And there you go. That's the cavity. And then there's our seeds. Now that we got our seeds in the water, let's put a cap on it. Shake it all up real good. And you'll see that'll just break up all the seeds. And we'll let that sit. You don't want that tight now. Tighten it up when you shake it. And you're going to want to shake it and spin it around once a day until you look at real closely at each individual seed, and you'll see that little gel sac around each seed won't be there anymore. Most of the seeds will sink to the bottom. Now that we've harvested our tomatoes, now we spread them out. As you can see, there's many of them that are not quite ripe, but they have a little bit of red in them. So we bring them inside, and now they will ripen indoors instead of outdoors. Now the plants can put more energy into the remaining tomatoes that are on there to ripen faster or to develop a little bit more. So I laid them out here. I left a little bit of space in between each one. We don't want them touching. Just learning from experience. If they're touching, it seems like they kind of grow some mold or something along those lines in between them. So I give a little bit of space, and I'll constantly kind of flip them and roll them around until they're ripened. Also, as I was going through, I came across two that weren't any good. This one here is a nice tomato. It's kind of too bad that we're going to get rid of it. As you can see here on the bottom, this is blossom end rot. It's from a lack of calcium in the plant, where the plant's not getting enough calcium, or the plant's just not releasing the calcium. There's a whole lot to that. I save my eggshells and I crush my eggshells up and I put that into the soil in the springtime. I till it in. That's a big controversy whether it does anything or not, but I don't get too many tomato plants with blossom end rot. But we're going to dispose of this because as it ripens, it'll just rot. And it could just end up infecting other plants, you know, rotting away, and then the other ones next to them start to rot. This one here, this is the stem top. This is where the stem was, and I'm not sure what's going on here. My guess is that maybe an insect got in there and it's rotting away. So these two tomatoes, we're just going to toss them. We're not even going to save them. We got so many tomatoes, it's not worth, you know, saving them. Now down here we have our Cherokee purples from seeds that I saved last year. As you can see, it's beginning to ripen. This one's a really nice one, in really good shape. I picked this one at just the right time. Because especially with Cherokee purples, it seems to be, and with other heirloom tomatoes, the tops, they get lots of cracks in them, and you know, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. It's usually due to inconsistent watering, but some strains of tomatoes are just more susceptible to it than others. I got a few here that are, you know, pretty bad. You know, this one here even split on the bottom. So we'll try to get these ripened up. They're almost there. On Cherokee purples, this top never gets red or purple. It always kind of stays this greenish color. So you're kind of looking for how it feels, and the bottom has got a good color. They'll get pretty soft, then you know it's almost overripe. So we're just going to let these sit for a day or two. There's another nice one. A little bit of splitting, but not too bad. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Garden Times, and thank you for watching, and happy gardening.